Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to your 2018 NFL Week 16 post-game analysis show. I am the host, obviously the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the Chiseled Adonis. We're not usually in our regular scenery, all right? We're not in the Hold My Nugget studios, all right? We out here in the car, in the damn backyard to talk about what transpired on Week 16. Usually this would be posted like on a Wednesday. Hell, if I was feeling better, I'd post it on the Tuesday, but obviously a lot of things happen. So now we're here on a Thursday. But nonetheless, let's break down exactly what's going down. I will have the pregame for Week 17, all the playoff scenarios tomorrow because there is no Thursday night football game. So we can push it back to a Friday at a much better time rather than have everything condensed and post it on a Thursday. Like, well, we just watched the post game. We don't even let it sink in. Let's hop right into the pregame. So we're going to break it down today. First, we'll talk about what transpired last Saturday. We had the Redskins taking on the Titans in Tennessee. The Titans walked away with the W, 16-25. 2 interceptions thrown by Josh Johnson on the final 2 possessions, one by Kevin Byard. He caught one. Then Malcolm Butler caught one, went into the end zone. Can I get a pick six? The Redskins eliminated in this bitch. Now, I'll say this. For this particular game, it was back and forth for the most part. The Titans didn't really feel as if they were in control the entire game. It was really anybody's game. But the Redskins just didn't make enough plays, really. And this ended up leading to the releasing of DJ Swearinger. After the game, he decided to go and say, hey, I didn't really like how they were playing once Gabbert came into the game because Marcus Mariota did ultimately end up getting hurt and didn't return. And I saw it myself. I found it very odd that they didn't play defensively to try to put pressure on this guy. They started, oh, we're going to play as if Mariota's still in it. No, Gabbert doesn't have the same wheels that Mariota had. Why would you run the defenses that you ran, especially in a situation where you can still qualify for the playoffs, being the Redskins at that? So it was very odd. I understood where Swearinger was coming from. It's unfortunate now that he's out of a job. Well, not necessarily. He got picked up by Arizona 2 days ago or something like that. But good game for the Titans. At this point, you know, it's a win and you're in situation next week, or I should say in a couple of days, Sunday night football, AFC South matchup between the Texans. Why I keep saying Texans? The Titans and the Colts. I got the Texans on my mind. But good win for the Titans nonetheless. I hope, Mariota is healthy enough to play effectively if they do make it into the postseason. More importantly, this upcoming game, I hope he's able to, sustain the body health to play throughout the entire game. I don't know what word I was looking for right there. I want to go durability. Let's just say he's durable enough to complete the entire game, because I would feel a little bit frustrated if he gets another a quarter and a half into the game, or maybe 2 quarters into the game. Tennessee is moving the ball and then all of a sudden he's hurt again and Indianapolis comes back, or they run away with the game. I want to see a very good game to see who really earned that final playoff spot. Or if they end up losing, then hey, or they ended a tie, Pittsburgh can mess around and squeak in, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Next, we had the Ravens taking on the Chargers in LA, but that's not really something to be worried about because LA is not a home field advantage sort of situation, especially for the Chargers, given they just got there last year. But nonetheless, Ravens dominated this game. Time of possession was ridiculous. All right, the Chargers, Keenan Allen got screwed on the offensive pass interference. I wouldn't have thrown that flag because it was a back shoulder sort of pass. Or I should say not necessarily back shoulder, because he turned back to come get the ball. I guess it was underthrown, but it wasn't a pass interference. They threw the flag. Then after that, they had he wasn't set. What's the name for that play call? Is it illegal procedure? I think that's probably what it's called, but he wasn't set. So it was back-to-back penalties on this man. And then you also had a clubbing clothesline blow on a pressure on Phillip Rivers. I don't know if it was a sack. No, I think he did get sacked. And the referees didn't throw the flag for that particular play. So it was unfortunate, day for the officials if you were a Chargers fan. But nonetheless, the Ravens did what they had to do to win this game. They ran the ball effectively. The Chargers could not get the Ravens off the field on 3rd down in crucial moments. When the Chargers ultimately did take the lead early in the second, was it in the second quarter? No, second half, where Ingram, yes, it was in the second half. Ingram forced the fumble. No, he recovered the fumble. Then Melvin Gordon went into the end zone, and right after, you had a situation where Lamar Jackson connects with Mark Andrews, goes into the end zone, touchdown for about like 60 or 50 some yards. It was something ridiculous. But the Chargers defense, they weren't really worried about the pass. They were concerned about the run and failed at that. So this Ravens team is extremely dangerous. Their defense is something not to be played with. Gotta take them seriously, especially this upcoming game going against Cleveland in a win you're in sort of situation. So we'll see how that plays out. But for the Chargers, this was a tough loss. You played against a very, very stingy Ravens team. More importantly, you'll find yourself in a situation, if the Ravens do indeed win their game, you got to go play them again in Baltimore. So I would be concerned if I was a Chargers fan about having to play against Baltimore, because this team right here, offensively, they're hard to stop, man. They got a very dynamic offense. As of right now, one of the top offenses in the league since Lamar Jackson has taken over. And I'm not even talking about it from a yard standpoint. The fact that they own the time of possession the way that they do, that makes them an extremely scary team offensively. That's why I categorize them as one of the better offenses in the league, because they'll run the ball, they'll eat the clock, and their defense is the best in the league, and they'll keep you off the field like that. So you can't beat a team like that if you're not going to have the ball, and they always have the ball. But good win for the Ravens. Next, the Giants taking on the Colts. The Giants came out looking extremely strong. Ultimately, Eli Manning does what Eli Manning does, and they ended up fumbling away the lead. The Colts came all the way back from 14 down, then 10 down, and they ended up taking the lead and winning. Andrew Luck showed he has a lot of gumption. He showed, hey, I'm not this injury-prone quarterback who can't play in this league. In fact, this man is an MVP candidate. Probably not going to do it, because you're not going to get it, because Breeze and Mahomes are pretty much battling, and I say the postseason will influence who gets the MVP. A lot of people talk about regular season. I don't know how many times I have to reiterate, reverberate, regurgitate this statement, but the postseason has taken into account now. They may not say it, but you'd be a fool to not believe it. But Luck, phenomenal game from this man. He showed a lot of testicular fortitude to bring his team back. T.Y. Hilton, some good catches here and there. Eric Ebron, his presence was somewhat felt because the coverage was rolling towards him on the ground. Marlon Mack hit the damn Mark Morrison music when he going into the end zone. This Colts team, they're playing very well when they're at home. I'm a little bit concerned about when they're on the road. We'll see how things play out regarding the playoff implications, because they can only be a wild card. So we'll see how they play on the road if in fact they end up winning their game. But we'll find out Sunday Night Football. As for the Giants, it's a tale of their season. They're hot, then they're cold, and most times they happen to be cold. Next, the the Jags taking on the Dolphins. Jags won this game 17-7. The Dolphins got themselves booted out of the playoffs. More importantly, the Jags were on the road, and they got this done. Telvin Smith, pick 6 into the end zone. Tannehill threw a terrible pass that ended up getting intercepted. The Jags defense did what they had to do. The Dolphins offense, for the most part, this entire game was abysmal. They didn't really do too much. The Jags offensively ain't do too much either. You had that one score from Fournette, but outside of that, they didn't really do anything. It was a sloppy game. I want to say a defensive game, but it felt as if offensively guys were not calling great play calls, or the offense were underachieving. But nonetheless, the Jags got the W. It was a battle for the inside of Florida, so there's some, bragging rights to be done, or I said bragging rights to be said amongst both teams. But it was a good win for the Jags. They needed this as a character builder, but still, their coach getting fired at the end of the year. Blake Bortles is going to start on Sunday. We'll see how that plays out, but that man, you better pack your bags, because you're leaving Jacksonville. Next, Falcons taking on the Panthers. Cam Newton did not start. He was on the bench. Taylor, is it Heineke? I think it's Heineke. He started the game. Great drive for their score. Outside of that, he did nothing. The Falcons took care of business. You had a huge hit from the punter, Matt Bosher, whatever the hell his name's pronounced. That man laid out Kenjon Warner. You might as well just take his Super Bowl ring from the Eagles last year and you don't got that no more, fam. Your entire football career deleted. Like I said in my video, release him from the team, delete his Madden character. He's an unrestricted free agent created character with no attributes in Madden. That you get destroyed by a damn kicker like that, get off the field, man. Get off the field. But the Falcons, good win for them. Confidence booster to try to finish the season strong. People are still calling for Dan Quinn's job, which I still don't understand. But they played an effective game and won. For Carolina, they can't find a win. I mean, this is rough, especially on their fans. They played at home as well. I don't know if this was their home closer, but man, that's got to be rough. That's got to be rough. At this point, how many games have they lost consecutively? Is it 7 now? Yeah, I think it was 7. Oh boy, it's saddening, man. It's sickening. I know that's very heart-wrenching for those guys out there, but better luck next season. Next, we had the Bengals taking on the Browns. The Browns owned this game. The Bengals tried to make a late surge, but it was just not enough. The Browns and Baker Mayfield, I love this kid, man. I really do. I like the way he plays football. I like the passion that he brings behind his game. He likes to go out there and really rally his troops. More importantly, guys are buying in. Just like Jarvis Landry was saying on Hard Knocks, man, it's contagious. You see how much, high intensity they're playing with defensively. Myles Garrett getting to the quarterback. Their secondary balling out. I mean, one of them ended up getting mossed, but we won't talk about that. That was Jabril Peppers, I might add. But still, linebackers flowing to the ball offensively. They're running the ball with Nick Chubb, Jarvis Landry all over the field making catches. You had the tight ends galore out there. You got Njoku, you got Feld. Man, these guys playing ball out there, man. And I love that after the game, Baker said he wants people to fear coming to Cleveland. And hey, the way that they're playing, maybe next year they can really implement something like that. As for the Bengals, injury, ridden season, it's kind of hard to try to bounce back and close out. I would hope this is the last game Marvin Lewis has coached, this upcoming game against Pittsburgh, because they need an entire culture change. But it was a hell of a win for the Browns. Great for them. Big game coming on Sunday, and that's not just because I'm a Steelers fan, but nonetheless. All right. Bucks taking on the Cowboys. The Cowboys pretty much had this game in the bag. The Bucks tried to make a late surge. Was not enough. I'll say this. The Cowboys, they're looking all right defensively. Offensively, I still have some questions regarding if they can get stuff done in the postseason, but they were able to lock up the NFC East. So they have clinched themselves a playoff berth. They will host a playoff game. So the Cowboys fans, they're about to be out this upcoming weekend. Well, I should say 2 weekends from now, because this upcoming weekend is going to be week 17. So the following weekend, they're going to have themselves a wild card game. They're probably going to end up playing against Seattle because they're going to be the 4th seed. So we'll see how things play out. Or will they be the 3rd seed? What is the seeding right now? You got New Orleans, the Rams, the Cowboys are also division leaders. What division am I missing? Is it the North? The Bears. Okay, yeah. So the Cowboys are going to be 4th. So they're definitely going to be playing against Seattle. That's going to be a very tough game. We'll see how things play out regarding the seeding. But yeah, hell of a game for Dallas. They were able to walk away with the W. Jameis played very well. I hope this man gets re-signed. He's able to continue his career as a Buccaneer. If not, I expect to see this man get signed somewhere and start some football, because since he's come in and relieved the duties of Ryan Fitzpatrick again for the 2nd time, he's been balling, man. Seriously. It may not have translated into a ton of wins, but if you really watch the games, he's been balling, man. He's taking care of some business. I'm not really huge on Jameis anymore because he's since let me down season after season, but hey, these past couple of weeks, there's no denying this man been balling. All right, he's been balling. They fixed that defense and he plays that way. Tampa Bay could start to really, light up some scoreboards like they've been doing all season, but they can, rack up some wins. We'll see how things play out in the future, but Jameis, keep it up. This final game, you got to ball out, dog. You got to ball out. Next, but good win for the Cowboys. Next, Vikings and the Lions. I don't know what it is about Detroit. They give up Hail Marys galore. But the Vikings, good game for the most part. I mean, Stephon Diggs pretty much fell off a goddamn cliff. Adam Thielen since week, 10? Pretty much fell off a goddamn cliff. But they can run the ball. They can run the ball. Latavius Murray, Dalvin Cook, those guys, they can run the ball. This was pretty much the Kyle Rudolph game. All right, Rudolph the Red Zone Reindeer. A lot of people were messaging me talking about, hey, I saw a bunch of people using the nickname. They're not giving you credit. It's low-hanging fruit. I wouldn't be surprised. A bunch of people go out there and grab it. It's not really something hard to come up with. Reindeer, Rudolph, it's very simple. But nonetheless, good win for the Vikings. They needed this. Now, this upcoming game that they have against the Bears, it's a must-win situation. They win, they're in. They lose, Philly has a chance to go and, scheme and get into the playoffs. So we'll see how things play out. But good win for them. As for the Lions, man, Detroit finds ways to Detroit themselves out of W's, man. Seriously. I don't know what it is. This season was looking promising for Detroit, and then I don't know what the deal is. I tried to whistle. It wasn't working out. Next game, but good win for the Vikings. Next game, the Bills and the Pats. The Pats own the Bills. Brady played terrible. Terrible. He had 2 interceptions. Rex Burkhead, he fumbled as well. There was 3 turnovers from New England. On top of that, they didn't really do anything. throughout the entire game. Defensively, it worked, but then you have a bad offense of Buffalo. But outside of that, you know, they're playing at home. I don't know what it is about this New England team, man. They got to get it together. They seriously got to get it together. If they lose this upcoming week against the Jets and, you know, Houston wins, then they secure that 2 seed. I feel as if there's a wild card, they mess around and get knocked out. Depending on who they play at 6, of course, but still, I think if they played against Indianapolis could get them. I think if they played against Tennessee, they'll probably beat Tennessee like they did in the postseason last year. However, if the ground game gets going, Tennessee can beat them as well. So we'll see how things play out. But New England right now, I don't know. I don't know, man. I always trust Belichick, and I can't go against Brady. But this particular season, it hasn't been looking good on either side of the ball, really. I don't know what the deal is, but for Buffalo, you already know it's Buffalo. They got some years to go until they start to really get stuff together. But New England, y'all got to get it together. Good win, but still, you know, the New England standard, that ain't it, Chief. Next, the Jets and the Packers. This was actually a very exciting game. Packers won in overtime, 44-38. I'll say this, Aaron Rodgers showed, I'm that dude. I'm still that dude. We may not be going to the postseason, but hey, you still got to take me seriously. I'll say this about the Jets. Sam Darnold showed a lot of poise this particular game. Played very well for the most part. Elijah McGuire, I like this kid. If Bilal Powell can't go next year or moving forward, I think they have a suitable backup. I think they still need another running back, one more. I think Elijah McGuire is better as a third down back out of the backfield, or possible carries here, some flexing him in or rotation sort of back. I don't think he's the guy. But the Jets, they just need some couple more receivers. Defensively, this particular game, they were off. But you're going against Aaron Rodgers, so I'm not really surprised. He really commanded that offense. And the Packers were down. You know, they were down 15 in what was it, late third quarter, early fourth quarter, whatever it was. But Aaron Rodgers wheeled his team back. You had a couple consecutive Mason Crosby field goals, and then Aaron Rodgers said, hey, it's time for me to be me, and just go. Showed why he's one of the greatest of all time and brought them back. Some people will say, well, it's a meaningless game. Well, football is football. If I'm 0-10 and then I win the final games at 6-10, you're going to look like, damn, they playing some good football regardless. Like, look at 49ers last year. They were out of the race a long time, and then Jimmy G started playing ball, and like, damn, next year, they about to light it up, and then Jimmy G got hurt. But nonetheless, good win for the Packers. Next, the Texans taking on the Eagles. This game was very confusing because the Texans battled all the way back, took the lead, and then Nick Foles decided, hey, I'm going to rub my nutsack on this Texans defense. Now, I'll say this. Nick Foles is balling, and I said before, it seems as if he fits this offense better than Wentz does, only because of the play call. Because when Wentz is in there, they want to try to be all dynamic and tricky and all this other stuff, and then Foles gets in there, and it's a well-oiled machine because you go by what works and you play to his strengths. It's very confusing, but I'll say this. The Eagles can be a very dangerous team because of the way they're playing football right now. They're stretching the field. This man Foles can throw a damn rocket down the field. I don't know why people don't guard deep. It's very confusing, but for the most part, taking care of business. Zach Ertz in the intermediate routes, this guy is a damn, like a messiah on the field. Nobody's guarding this man for some apparent reason. He cannot be accounted for. If they can get their ground game going extremely consistent, or getting Sproles out of the backfield on a consistent basis and dumping it down to him, you better watch out for the Eagles if the Vikings do end up losing. So we'll see how things play out, but hell of a game for the Eagles. For the Texans, tough loss. I don't think this is a confidence killer sort of situation. It was just a desperate team, played very desperate, and walked away with the W on the last second field goal from Jake Elliott. So, hey, if I'm a Texans fan, I'm not too worried. You still got an invitation to the dance that happens to be the postseason. But for Philly fans, you still got hope. You live for another week. Next game, the Rams taking on the Cardinals. Necrophilia. The Cardinals stood no chance. Larry Fitzgerald threw a touchdown. Outside of that, they did absolutely nothing. The Rams, they played this game without Todd Gurley. Robert Woods went into the end zone twice. Jared Goff played an all-right game. For the most part, you had a C.J. Anderson debuting as a Ram. I don't believe he played another game as a Ram before this particular game. I feel as if this was his debut. Yeah, I think this was his debut, but he got into the end zone as well. The Aaron Donald as well made his presence felt. He was rubbing his nutsack all over Josh Rosen. So yeah, it was a good game for the Rams. They needed this. They needed this win. And you know, they're number 2. They're gonna have their first round bye. I believe they're gonna have their first round bye, depending on if Chicago wins and the Rams lose. I think that would move them. So they have to win the next game as well. I think that they're 12-3, and the Bears are 11-4. Yeah, so they have to win the next game to make sure they secure the bye. So we'll see how that plays out. As for the Cardinals, first round draft pick, maybe. Next, I say first round draft pick, first round draft pick. Next, the Bears and the 49ers. This game was very close. You had the skirmish, the kerfuffle, the brouhaha between Richard Sherman battling against a ton of Chicago Bears, but the Bears were able to walk away with the W. Allen Robinson caught what was the game-sealing reception, and rather than go down, he's like, let me fight for yards and help win a fantasy championship for the people who selected me. That's a bad football move. He fumbled on the play, but the 49ers weren't able to salvage the turnover and make it into points to possibly, you know, pull the upset. But for the Bears, I'm not too concerned. This was a matchup sort of situation, and it worked out very well. They didn't play as well, but I'm not too worried, because the defense did what they had to do. The offense just has to get it going, and that's my only concern for Chicago. And I've said it throughout the entire season. If you stop the dinking and dunking in the run game, which isn't too hard because you're pretty much playing the exact same defense. You stack the box and they come out. They don't. It's almost as if Chicago doesn't trust Mitch Trubisky launching the ball down the field. I don't understand the play calling. Nagy got to try to, you know, switch it up. You have an entire 15 weeks of tape. You already going into the postseason. I would love first possession of the postseason. This is just skipping week 17. But first possession of the postseason game, I want you to launch the ball deep with Mitch Trubisky and just catch people like, whoa, wait a minute, because nobody's going to see it coming. They'll probably be wide open. Allen Robinson, you know, he can win those 50-50 balls, but we'll talk about that a little bit later, 2 weeks from now. But good win for the Bears. Walked away with the W. Unfortunate situation with the skirmish. Sherman ended up getting ejected. I think 2 other players ended up getting disqualified as well. That's the same as ejected. I don't know why I use different terminology, but nonetheless, good win for the Bears. 49ers, number 2 draft pick, baby. Next, we have the Steelers taking on the Saints. This game was extremely heart-wrenching. Coach Tomlin coached his ass off up until the fake punt, or the giving the ball to Stephen Ridley. I wasn't a fan of Ridley having the ball in his hands. It is getting visibly darker. I can't see myself, but I feel as if I'm not visible right now. But nonetheless, listen to my soothing voice. Now, I wasn't a fan of the handoff to Ridley the play before. Jalen Samuels just dropped himself to the floor rather than, you know, battle for the additional yards. I wasn't a fan of that. And when I saw it was short and Ridley came in, I had this eerie feeling about myself. I did not want to see this man carry the ball. Lo and behold, he fumbles on the play. A lot of people didn't like the following play call because they were able to block the field goal kick after that anyway. But the 4th and 5, I understand the concerns about why don't you just keep Ben on the field and the offense on the field. I completely understand. I agree. It should have been them on the field. However, the fake punt, very spontaneous, extemporaneous. You could catch the defense off guard, which in a sense they did. But, you know, he got hit. Knicks fought for about 2 yards. I wouldn't have went with that particular play call. I think they could have spiced it up a little bit more, but he just happened to come up half a yard short. I would have went for it. I don't think that would have been the play, but I understand. What I liked about it is that he went for it and tried to catch them off guard. The certain play call that was there, not really, but I felt as if the defense could tighten down. There were a ton, or I should not even say a ton, 2 questionable calls in the game, but you got to be able to overcome that. A lot of people saying, well, if Pittsburgh, you know, still, if Juju didn't fumble, you know, Boswell would have missed the kick. You can't say that because the man made both his kicks that particular day. More importantly, Juju's fumble fighting for extra yards, you don't got to do that. Just go to the ground. Secure the possession, go to the ground. It was a very tough sort of play. I've lost games like that. I've won games like that. I know what it feels like. Very frustrating situation. Your destiny's no longer in your hands. You have to trust in an outside team to get it done. This sort of situation reminds me of, I believe it was 2013, the last year that we missed the playoffs, where you needed like 4 different scenarios to happen. Every single one happened, and then you needed Kansas City to win, I believe, and they missed the field goal, or they had to lose, whatever it was. But I know Kansas City was involved, and a field goal ended up being missed. Had they made it, Pittsburgh would have went to the playoffs. But now you're in a situation where you're hoping and praying. We'll see how things play out. But hell of a game for the Saints, I'll say that. Drew Brees threw for 300 yards. It didn't feel like he did. Michael Thomas did what he did, but outside of that, no, run game was nullified. They didn't do anything on the ground. I saw somebody comment in my post-game video for Pittsburgh about, oh, but they had 3 touchdowns. Kamara had 2 and Ingram had 2, but they only had about 60 yards in total. They didn't run the ball. The run game was not effective. It didn't create anything. It was just those scores that you got in short yardage situation. Outside of that, that's nothing. That's similar to me saying when Jerome Bettis had those 5 carries for 3 touchdowns and 1 yard, he was running all over the defense. That's not the case. That's not how you analyze football. But good win for New Orleans. They secure home field advantage through the NFC. So you've already known Sean Payton and Drew Brees are 5-0 when playing at home. So in the postseason. So hey, this could result in 1/2 of my Super Bowl prediction coming true, and that being New Orleans going to the Super Bowl. Now we just need some help for Pittsburgh to go in there, and now my prediction would go to fruition. But we're moving on to the next game. Chiefs and the Seahawks. I told you guys the Seahawks would win. They won 38-31. Seahawks playing at home, Seattle playing at home, very tough team to beat. Russell Wilson put himself back into the MVP conversation. A lot of people ended up taking him out. I never did, but he's back in there. Phenomenal game. Patrick Mahomes, hey man, this man played some phenomenal football this particular game. It wasn't enough to get it done. I'll say this though, they still are a team that can clinch home field advantage through the AFC this upcoming week. They did lose 2 consecutive right now. I believe, yeah, they lost to the Chargers 2 weeks ago, now losing this particular game, so they need a win, or you find yourself in a situation where you're a wild card. And you already know how Andy Reid is as a wild card. Hell, you already know how Andy Reid is at second half of the season. But this particular game, Pete Carroll coached his ass off. There were 2 different times inside the 5-yard line where Seattle threw the ball. I was not a fan of that, but they ended up resulting in touchdowns. What is my criticism of a touchdown that ends up being a touchdown? That means nothing to Seattle, but good win for them. Very good win, confidence booster. They're closing out the season correctly, and they clinched their playoff berth. They will be the number 5 seed in the NFC, taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Next, we got the Broncos and the Raiders. Raiders closed out their final game, which I believe to be their final game in Oakland, 27-14. I'll say this. Patrick Lindsay ended up getting hurt. Philip Lindsay, pardon me, ended up getting hurt. Derek Carr showed a lot of gumption this particular game, moving the team down the field. Doug Martin ran a phenomenal game. In fact, I think this might be Doug Martin's first 100-yard game in quite some time. I cannot recall if he did have another 100-yard game, recently. It didn't feel as if it was 100 yards because I definitely did not remember. Case Keenum, probably not going to have the Denver job next year. Vance Joseph, definitely getting fired now. You saw the unpleasant uncertainty on the face of John Elway, so you already know there's going to be some moves made. I don't know who they should bring in, but as for the Raiders and the Gruden Grinders, they needed this confidence boost. They're closing out the season pretty good. I think they've won 3 of their last 4 or 3 of their last 5, but whatever it was, you got a ton of draft picks. You got house money. They're going to make a lot of noise. And I'm telling you guys, in 3 years, the Raiders will become a perennial playoff team. You guys stay tuned for that. But nonetheless, this has been my coverage for the 2016 NFL Week 16 post-week analysis show. I will have the pregame picks up tomorrow. A lot of stuff going on in my house right now, so I could not record. Today it's extremely dark. You're probably only hearing my voice. You're speaking to the shadows, but I'm not Shadow the Hedgehog. But nonetheless, I have been your host, the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the Chiseled Adonis. Have a happy holidays for the remainder of the holidays. Obviously, Christmas just passed, but nonetheless, enjoy your Thursday.